I was thinking about a used car. My budget is around $15,000.
We don't really have anything nice in that range. If you're not ready to spend real money, I don't want to waste my time.
I've saved up. I just need something dependable to get to work.
Yeah, I can tell. Honestly, people like that never buy. Just go check the back. If you had real money, I'll show you the real cars.
5 minutes ago, you watched me walk into my building. Who greeted me? Who thought I was worth their time?
I didn't know it was you.
That's exactly the problem. You thought disrespect was okay as long as it was just a customer and not the CEO.
You're really firing me over one bad interaction?
They laughed at her car. They judged her clothes. They told her to go look at the cheap stuff in the back. What they didn't know is that the woman they were trashing was the CEO who signed their paychecks. This is the shocking undercover story of how she walked in pretending to be broke and walked out firing half the dealership. Don't buy a car from that place. They treat people like trash. The sentence glared back at her from the screen, black letters on a white background, but it felt like someone had grabbed Maya Johnson by the throat. She blinked, leaned in closer, and reread it. Trash. They treated people like trash at her dealership. Maya was sitting alone in her home office, city lights glowing through the window behind her. It was past midnight, the kind of hour when most CEOs had already shut their laptops and gone to bed. Not Maya. This was her ritual. Once a week, she checked every online review of her dealerships. Google, Yelp, social media. If the customers were talking, she wanted to hear it. Normally, it was simple. A complaint about wait times. A compliment about a friendly salesperson. The usual ups and downs of any business. But tonight was different. She clicked the one-star review and started to read. They ignored me for 20 minutes while I stood in the lobby. Sales guy kept talking to my boyfriend and acted like I wasn't even there. When I asked about a woman or a black manager, they laughed and said, "We don't really have that here." Maya felt something twist in her chest. She scrolled down. Another review. I walked in excited to buy my first car. Walked out feeling humiliated. They talked to me like I was dumb, tried to force add-ons I didn't want. And when I said I needed time to think, the guy rolled his eyes and walked away. Another. If you're not wearing a suit or looking rich, they don't care about you. Save yourself the disrespect. Line after line. Story after story. Customers said they were ignored. Women said they were talked down to. People said they felt judged the moment they stepped through the doors. And then that one comment that hit her like a punch. I didn't see a single manager who looked like me. When I asked, they laughed. Maya's hand hovered over the trackpad, frozen. This wasn't just a bad review. This wasn't just one angry customer venting online. This was a mirror. And she did not like what it reflected. Because that dealership, the one being dragged in front of the whole internet, was her flagship store. The one with her name on the wall. The one she was most proud of. Her name. Her brand. Her legacy. She leaned back in her chair and stared at the ceiling. "How is this happening in my house?" she whispered. She thought about the early days. Starting as a young, hungry salesperson. Being the only black woman in the room. Being mistaken for an assistant, a receptionist, anything but the person actually closing the deal. She remembered promising herself back then. One day, when I run my own dealership, nobody walks in and feels small. Nobody walks in and feels invisible. And now, people were walking into her dealership and walking out feeling exactly that way. Invisible. Disrespected. Mocked. She opened the internal report files. Customer satisfaction scores had dipped slightly, but nothing dramatic. Her general manager's monthly emails sounded polished and professional. Team is performing well. Minor issues, all handled. Customers are happy overall. Lies. Or blindness. Maya felt heat rising in her face. Was her team hiding things from her? Were managers sugarcoating serious problems just to protect their bonuses? Or had they simply stopped caring? She clicked back to the reviews and kept reading. I asked a question and the salesman smirked like I was stupid. They talked over me. They made jokes when they thought I couldn't hear. Every sentence felt heavier. This wasn't a small misunderstanding. This was a pattern. She could feel herself slipping into CEO mode, running through the usual options in her mind. Send a harsh email to the store manager. Schedule a training seminar on customer service. Hire a PR firm to manage the online reputation. Offer a few gift cards to calm down the angriest customers. The textbook response. Safe. Distant. Corporate. She moved the cursor toward her email icon, then stopped. Because something inside her said, no, not this time. Emails could be ignored. Reports could be edited. Numbers could be massaged. But real behavior? You could only see that when people thought no one important was watching. Her eyes narrowed. What are they doing? She whispered. When they think I'll never see it. Maya pushed back her chair and stood up. In that moment, a different kind of decision formed in her mind. Not the polished, boardroom decision. The personal one. The one that came from being the girl who was once laughed at on a lot just like hers. If her staff were truly disrespecting people, she didn't want secondhand stories. She wanted to feel it, hear it, face to face. She closed the laptop. Instead of sending a manager, instead of writing an email, instead of hiding behind a title, she decided to walk straight into the problem, into her own dealership. As a stranger, she would be just another customer in old clothes. No fancy car, no assistant. No, Ms. Johnson, owner of the dealership group. Not today. Maya picked up her car keys, heart pounding with a mix of anger and purpose. She was going in herself, and no one would know it was her. Saturday morning, the dealership's busiest day. The lot was already buzzing, engines starting, doors slamming, customers weaving between rows of shiny cars. Flags fluttered in the breeze. Bright banners shouted things like, "Big weekend sale," and "We treat you like family." But the woman who walked through the glass doors that day did not look like a CEO. Baggy jeans, oversized hoodie, a cheap curly wig pulled low over her forehead. No makeup, old, worn-out sneakers that squeaked slightly on the tile. And outside, sitting crooked in a parking spot, was a beat-up used car she'd rented last minute. Rust on the door, faded paint. It had coughed smoke as she pulled into the lot, turning a few heads for all the wrong reasons. That woman was Maya. She had spent the entire night planning every detail. Which car would someone judge? Which clothes would make them underestimate her? Which look would guarantee nobody thought boss, owner, or millionaire? Because she wanted the truth. If her staff treated every customer with respect, she would see it. If they were lying, lazy, or disrespectful, she would feel it. No title, no special treatment. No, let me get the manager. She's important. Today, she was just another nobody with an old car and a small budget. As she reached for the dealership door, she caught her reflection in the glass. If she hadn't known who she really was, even she might have believed the disguise. She took a breath, pushed open the door, and stepped inside. Cool air conditioning washed over her. The showroom shined, bright lights, polished floors, spotless cars lined up like trophies. The smell of new leather and coffee floated in the air. She paused just inside the entrance. This was the same building where she'd cut the ribbon on opening day. The same floor she'd walked in high heels, surrounded by cameras and applause. The same front door where she'd shaken hands and said, "We're going to do business differently here." Today, she walked in, and nobody even looked up. Salespeople were clustered together at their desks, laughing at some joke she wasn't part of. One of them swiveled in his chair, glanced at her for half a second, then looked back down at his phone, thumbs flying. Another salesman strolled right past her, brushing by her shoulder like she was just air, then broke into a wide smile as he reached a man in a suit who had just walked in behind her. "Good morning, sir. Welcome in. What can we get you into today?" Firm handshake. Big grin. Immediate attention. Maya stood there. Still. Quiet. Waiting. 30 seconds. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other. No one came. 1 minute. She watched as two salespeople argued over who got to help a promising lead who had just parked a luxury car out front. They never even glanced her way. Almost 3 full minutes. In a dealership where the very first rule in training was clear. Greet every customer in 10 seconds or less. No exceptions. 10 seconds. She was at 180. The woman who owned the building, who signed their paychecks, who paid for the cars, the furniture, the coffee, the logo on the wall, was invisible. Her eyes slid to the side wall and landed on a framed photo. It was her, Maya Johnson, smiling in a tailored suit, shaking hands with the mayor on opening day. The caption underneath read, "Our vision, respect, service, integrity." She almost laughed. There she was, 10 feet tall on the wall, while the real her stood 5 steps away and couldn't get a simple hello. A young family walked in behind her, dad, mom, and a little girl holding a stuffed animal. Instantly, a receptionist popped up from behind a desk. "Hi, welcome in. Are you here for sales or service?" Warm voice, big smile. Maya watched quiet. So they didn't know how to greet people. They just chose who was worth greeting. You ever had that moment when it hits you? Oh, they think I don't matter? Not because you did anything wrong. Not because you caused any trouble. Just because of how you look. How you're dressed. What they think you can afford. That's exactly how Maya felt. Ignored. Judged. Pushed to the edge of the room like background furniture. And she hadn't said a single word yet. Finally, a salesperson dragged himself over. No smile. No welcome. No good morning. How can I help you? Just, yeah? You need something? His tone was flat. Bored, like she'd interrupted him scrolling his phone. Maya stayed in character. She made her shoulders droop a little, shifted her weight, looked around nervously like someone who wasn't sure she belonged there. Yeah, she said softly. I was thinking about maybe getting a used car. Something reliable. My budget is, like, around $15,000. He stared at her for a second, then smirked. We don't really have anything nice in that range, he said, almost laughing. You'd probably need a cosigner. Are you working full-time? The way he said nice stung. Like anything she could afford automatically meant low quality. Like she wasn't worth his full effort. She felt her jaw tighten. He had no idea. This man didn't know that the person he was talking down to ran 3 dealerships, employed over 200 people, and drove a fully paid-off luxury SUV. He didn't know she had personally signed his commission checks. He didn't know she'd sat in meetings planning bonuses for top performers like him. Right now, In his eyes, she was just another broke customer wasting his time. She swallowed, keeping her voice small. I mean, I've saved up. I don't have a cosigner, but I can put some money down. I just really need something dependable to get to work. He glanced at the old car she'd driven in, still visible through the glass. Yeah, I can tell, he muttered. Then louder. Honestly, if you're not ready to spend real money, I don't want to waste your time. You can go look at the cheap stuff in the back lot. He pointed with his chin, not even his hand, like he couldn't be bothered to move more than his neck for her. Not, let me show you some options. Not, let's see what we can do. Just, cheap stuff in the back. Maya let her eyes follow the direction he pointed, but inside, she was burning. She glanced around the showroom, taking in the contrast. On the other side, she saw a young white couple, well-dressed, designer bag, polished shoes, being treated like royalty. A salesperson walked beside them, gesturing proudly at a row of new cars. We've got coffee, water, soda, whatever you need, he said, smiling like they were celebrities. Take your time. Anything you like, we can work out numbers. They laughed together. Firm handshakes. Open body language. Full attention. On her side, silence. No offer of water. No, let me sit down with you. No attempt to ask about her needs, her story, her credit, her work. Just a shrug and a chin point to the cheap stuff. Another salesperson walked by behind her, talking to a coworker. He didn't realize how close they were to her, or maybe he didn't care. In a low voice, just loud enough for her to catch, he said, "Why does management let people like that in here? They never buy. People like that." The words echoed in her head. Not customers. Not guests. Not potential buyers. People like that. Because of her clothes. Because of the car she drove in. Because in their eyes, she didn't look like money. Maya felt a wave of anger rise in her chest, hot and sharp. Not just anger for herself as a successful black woman sitting there in disguise. Anger for every single person who had walked through those same doors with hope, nervous, excited, maybe scared about taking on a car payment, and been met with rolled eyes and lazy service. She thought about the reviews she'd read the night before. I felt talked down to. They acted like I was wasting their time. They made me feel small. Now she wasn't just reading it. She was living it. She turned her focus back to the room. She looked at the name tags. She looked at the faces. She listened to the tone of their voices, the jokes they made when they thought customers weren't listening, the way they lit up for some people and shut down for others. The salesman in front of her had already started glancing sideways, as if hoping a real buyer would walk in so he could walk away from her. "Do you want me to show you anything?" he asked lazily. "Or are you just looking?" "Just looking." She gave him a small nod, still in character. I'll go check out the back lot." "Yeah, do that," he said, already half turned away. Maya watched him walk off without another word. She stood there for a beat, feeling the anger settle into something colder, sharper, focused. This wasn't about one rude comment. This was culture. This was attitude. This was exactly what she had built her entire career fighting against. She took a slow scan of the showroom one more time. Faces, name tags, voices. She was memorizing everything. Because what was about to happen next, every single one of them would remember for the rest of their careers. 10 minutes later, Maya stepped outside. The sun hit her face, and for a second, she just stood there in the parking lot, breathing. Her heart was pounding, not from fear, but from fury held carefully in place. She reached up and peeled off the cheap curly wig, feeling the cool air on her scalp. The tight band had left a line across her forehead. Next, she yanked off the oversized hoodie, tossing it into the back seat of the rented beater car. From the trunk of her real SUV, she pulled out a sleek black blazer and slipped it on. The fabric settled on her shoulders like armor. She tied her natural hair up in a clean, sharp bun, the way she always did for board meetings and TV interviews. In the reflection of the car window, she watched the transformation. The broke customer was gone. The CEO was back. Her face hardened with resolve. Then she picked up her phone and dialed a direct number. The line clicked. "Hello. It's Maya," she said, her voice low but firm. "Bring the regional managers to the showroom. Right now? I don't care where they are. Tell them to move. And I want the entire sales floor lined up. You have 5 minutes." The person on the other end didn't even ask why. They just said, "Yes, ma'am," and hung up. Maya turned and looked through the large glass windows into the dealership. From outside, it looked clean, professional, impressive. Inside, she knew the truth. She could still see the same salesperson who'd brushed her off, laughing with a coworker. She watched him high-five another rep as they closed a deal with the well-dressed couple he'd chosen over her. They had no idea their world was about to flip. She walked calmly back toward the doors. When Maya stepped into the dealership this time, it was like the air shifted. The receptionist, who hadn't even glanced up when she'd walked in disguised, suddenly looked straight at her. Her eyes went wide. She shot up from her chair so fast it almost toppled. One of the salespeople closest to the entrance froze, then hissed under his breath to the others. "Yo, is that the owner?" Chairs rolled back. People straightened. Ties were yanked into place. Jackets were buttoned. Phones disappeared into pockets. The lazy slouch that filled the room minutes before snapped into nervous posture. Too late. Maya didn't rush. She didn't smile. She didn't try to soften anything. She walked straight to the center of the showroom, right to the exact spot where she had stood earlier, completely ignored, like she did not exist. She turned slowly, taking them all in. Everyone, she said, her voice carrying through the room, gather around. Now. There was something in the way she said, now, that told them this was not optional. Desks emptied. Conversations died mid-sentence. Coffee cups were set down. Within seconds, the staff formed a shaky half-circle around her. Salespeople, service advisors, even a couple of finance managers peeking from their offices. Some had only ever seen her in framed photos on the wall or in company newsletters. A few stared like they were looking at a legend they never expected to meet. And some, especially the ones who had interacted with her undercover, looked scared. 2 regional managers hurried in from the side entrance, slightly out of breath. She gave them a quick look and a small nod toward the back. Stand over there. You're observing. They obeyed without a word. Maya's eyes locked onto one face in the crowd. The man who'd told her to go look at the cheap stuff in the back lot. He tried to look anywhere, but at her, suddenly fascinated by the floor. 5 minutes ago, Maya said evenly. You saw me walk into this building. Her gaze swept across all of them. Who greeted me? Silence. You could hear the air conditioning hum. Someone shifted their weight. A pen clicked nervously in someone's hand, then quickly stopped. Who offered me help? She asked. More silence. A few people swallowed hard. Eyes dropped to shoes. No one moved. No one, she said. In my flagship store? She took a step closer to the circle, scanning their faces. Who decided, based on the way I was dressed and the car I drove in, that I wasn't worth their time? All eyes flickered toward the rude salesman, then snapped away. He shifted uncomfortably, finally forcing himself to speak. I didn't know it was you, he stammered. If I'd known. Maya closed the distance between them by one deliberate step. That's the problem, she said quietly. You thought it was okay because you didn't know it was me. She let that hang in the air. You thought it was just another customer you could disrespect. Push aside. Judge. Someone who didn't look like money, so you decided they weren't worth effort. His mouth opened, then closed. No excuse fit. Maya turned her back on him and faced the rest of the team. I read the reviews, she said. All of them. I read every complaint. I didn't want to believe them. I defended you in my own head. I told myself, my team would never treat people like that. She drew in a breath. So I came here myself. Undercover. No title. No power. No protection. Her eyes were sharp now, unwavering. What I saw today proved the reviews were telling the truth. You could see some of them flinch at that. Her voice stayed calm. No yelling. No theatrics. Just controlled, dangerous calm. And now, she said slowly, things are going to change. Maya lifted a clipboard from one of the manager's hands. She didn't rush. She scanned the list of names slowly, letting the silence stretch just enough to make every heartbeat in that room feel louder. Then she spoke. If I call your name, she said, step to the left. Her tone left no room for questions. She started reading. One name, then another, then another. With each name, someone detached from the group and moved to the side, confusion written all over their faces. Some looked offended. Some looked scared. Some tried to keep their expressions blank and failed. She called out the man who'd spoken to her with such open disrespect. His face went pale. You too, she said, not looking away. He joined the left side, jaw clenched, eyes darting around like he was searching for someone to rescue him. Then she called the names of 2 supervisors. The very same ones who had been standing there earlier, watching customers walk in and out, watching her get ignored, and doing absolutely nothing. They hesitated. Did you not hear me? Maya asked quietly. Step 2. The left. They moved. By the time she finished, nearly half the sales team stood separated from the others. A visible line cut through the room. Those who had been called, and those who hadn't. The ones on the left shifted uneasily, arms crossed, hands wringing, eyes wet, panic written on their faces like big, bold letters. Maya took a breath. Effective immediately, she said. You're all done here. The words hit like a thunderclap. Murmurs exploded. Wait, you can't. Hold on, what? Are you serious? I didn't even talk to you today. I have a family. How am I supposed to? Voices layered over each other, rising with fear and anger. Maya lifted her hand, palm out. Instant quiet. Her eyes moved down the line. You had chances, she said. Every single one of you. You had training. You had team meetings. You had written policies. You had managers. You had signs on the wall about customer care. She pointed toward the entrance. And you had people walking through those doors every single day, trusting you with their time, their money, and their safety. People who saved for months, sometimes years, just to sit at these desks and sign their name. Her voice stayed steady, but there was steel underneath. And what did you do? She continued. You chose to ignore them. You chose to judge them before they even opened their mouths. You chose to chase bigger commissions instead of basic respect. You chose shortcuts over service. She shook her head slowly. This dealership was built to treat every person with respect. That's not a slogan. That's the ground rule. And I will not pay people to destroy that. One of the fired salesmen took a small step forward. I've been here 8 years, he said. You're really letting me go over one bad day? Maya looked straight at him. This isn't about one day, she replied. It's about all the days I wasn't here. All the customers you thought no one would ever listen to. All the reviews that warned me this was happening. He opened his mouth again, then stopped. Because he knew. The reviews weren't lying. She nodded toward the managers at the back. You'll receive your final checks and paperwork by the end of the week, she said firmly. HR will follow up with you individually. Today, you leave the floor. Now, they didn't move at first. Then, one by one, they began to peel away, some angry, some stunned, some trying not to cry. The rude salesman shot her a look of pure resentment as he walked off. She didn't flinch. When the last of them had stepped aside, Maya turned to face the people who remained, the ones still standing in the center. Some looked relieved. Some looked guilty. Some looked like they weren't sure if they were safe or next. As for the rest of you, she said, you have one choice: step up or step out. The words landed hard. From today, we're rebuilding this place from the ground up, she continued. New training, new standards, new expectations. There will be cameras on the sales floor, not just for security, but for accountability. A few people shifted uncomfortably. I will be sending mystery shoppers every month, she added. You won't know who they are. You won't know when they're coming. They could be anyone. She walked a few steps, pacing slowly in front of them. And I don't care, she said. If you're talking to someone in a three-piece suit or someone in sweatpants, if they walk through those doors, you treat them like they're me. Because one day they might be. She let that idea hang in the air. How many CEOs, business owners, community leaders, or future loyal customers have you already pushed away? She asked. Just because they didn't look the way you expected? No one answered. Never forget what happened today, she said quietly. A woman you thought didn't belong here owned the building you work in. Silence pressed in around them. She turned and started walking toward the exit. The room stayed frozen, eyes locked on her back, knowing this day would be talked about for years. At the door, she stopped. She turned around one last time, her hand on the handle. Oh, and one more thing, she said. Every head lifted. The internet is watching. Customers are watching. I'm watching. Don't give any of us a reason to doubt you again. Then she pushed open the door and walked out, leaving behind a dealership that would never operate the same way again. If this story shook you, imagine how different your next car buying experience might feel. In a world where one hidden visit can change everything, what would happen if more CEOs actually walked through their own doors like this? If you want more powerful, true-to-life stories like this, about leadership, respect, and the moments that expose who people really are, hit that like button right now. Share this video with someone who works in customer service, or someone who should be watching how they treat people. And if you're new here, tap subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next story might just change the way you see your boss, your job, or even yourself. Now tell me in the comments. If you were Maya, would you have fired half the staff on the spot, or given them one last chance? Why? If this story challenged the way you see people, don't just scroll away. Tap that like button so more people hear this powerful message. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder. You never know who you're talking to. And if you enjoy stories that open your eyes and shake your assumptions, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because there are more life-changing stories coming your way. Now tell me in the comments. Have you ever been judged by how you look? Or have you ever judged someone before knowing their story? What happened? And what did you learn from it?